For as long as any of us can remember, the diamond has stood for love, for luxury, for, well, forever. But what if that timeless story is starting to crack? That's what we're going to dig into.
All right, so to really get into this, let's zoom in on the ultimate symbol, right? The classic 1-carat engagement ring. So is this timeless symbol of love losing its sparkle? Well, a new industry report suggests it just might be. It's facing pressure from pretty much every direction, including from a very, very powerful new rival.
And we're not talking about a small dip here. The threat is so huge that the report actually calls it an existential crisis for natural diamonds. And the main culprit? You guessed it, the rise of lab-grown diamonds.
But here's where it gets complicated. This challenge from synthetics, it's not hitting all diamonds in the same way. The market isn't just one big thing anymore. It's actually fractured.
Yep, it's basically split into 3 different segments now, and each one is playing by its own set of rules. They're behaving in completely different ways.
Okay, now this is where things get really fascinating. You can see how the market has broken down into these 3 battlegrounds. You've got the commercial market, the engagement market, and the luxury market. And believe me, each one is telling a totally different story.
First up, the commercial market. We're talking about the smaller stones, the lower quality stuff. And this whole segment is just getting hammered. Synthetics are pretty much taking over, there's a mountain of inventory just sitting there, and prices, yeah, they're in a nosedive.
Then you have the engagement market. You know, the home of that classic 1-carat ring. This is where the industry is fighting a real defensive war. See, buyers now are saying, look, if I'm buying a natural diamond, it better look at least as perfect as the lab-grown one. If it doesn't, they'll just take the cheaper, flawless synthetic. It's that simple.
But then there's the luxury market, and this is a whole different world. We're talking about those big, gorgeous, high-quality stones. For these buyers, synthetics aren't even on the radar. It's not a real alternative. So this part of the market is just cruising along, pretty much immune to all the chaos happening down below.
Okay, so if you think this is just about lab-grown versus natural, buckle up. Because when we zoom out, you see this is about a lot more than just what's happening in the jewelry store. Global politics are getting involved, and they are shaking the very foundations of the entire diamond supply chain.
So get this, a trade war between the US and India suddenly blows up. And this throws a massive wrench into the works. Why? Because at the heart of it all is a city called Surat in India. This one city cuts and polishes something like 90% of the world's natural diamonds. And all of a sudden, tariffs on those gems went from nothing to 25%. And then, boom, up to a crazy 50%.
And you can see the impact of that chaos right here on this chart. Look at that massive spike in imports. That's everyone rushing to buy before the tariffs hit. And then, a total crash. The new fees just made it impossible to do business. The market basically had a panic attack, and then it just froze.
And all of this turmoil led to some really weird situations with pricing. Because of all that chaos, the exact same 1-carat diamond could cost you 18% more in the US than it did in India. How crazy is that?
So, with all this disruption, with all this uncertainty, it really makes you wonder about that age-old idea, right? The one that underpins the whole mystique of the diamond. Is it actually a good investment? I mean, we've all heard it. A diamond is forever. It's a rare and valuable asset, a great way to store your wealth. But is it true? Let's push all that marketing talk to the side for a second and just look at the cold, hard data from the past 10 years.
So, over 10 years, what was the investment performance of a standard 1-carat diamond? Brace yourself. It's a loss. A loss of nearly 30%. That's right, negative 29.4%.
Now, to really see what that means, let's put it in context. This chart is amazing. It shows what would happen if you invested $1,000 in different things 10 years ago. Look at gold. Look at the NASDAQ. They soared. Your $1,000 in a 1-carat diamond, it would have shrunk. It would be worth just $706 today.
So where does this leave us? What does all this, the synthetics, the politics, the poor investment returns, what does it all mean for the future of this famous gem? Well, the report's conclusion is pretty blunt.
See, what the industry is facing right now isn't just a rough patch or a down cycle. It's a perfect storm. You've got the permanent threat from synthetics, you've got global trade getting all messed up, a huge oversupply of smaller diamonds, even the historic market leader, De Beers, is facing a really uncertain future. These aren't temporary problems, these are fundamental, game-changing shifts.
And here's the bottom line, the big takeaway from the report. This whole era of craziness and volatility, it's not going anywhere. This is the new normal.
Uncertainty is the new norm. That's the reality the industry has to deal with now.
So that leaves us with one last big question. If a diamond isn't forever as an investment, if it's not a guaranteed store of value, and if its whole meaning as a symbol is being challenged by alternatives that are identical and way cheaper, then what is a diamond for anymore? What does its future really truly look like?